Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Dr. Sev Talks Money Podcast. Now, I want to start off by asking you a question. If you were to lose your source of income, or if your income were reduced, would you adjust your lifestyle? If you think about it, many of us have had adjustments to our income or adjustments to how much we have to spend on our lifestyle. And we may not have made any adjustment to that lifestyle. Now, what do I mean by that? Cost of living is rising and salaries are not going up at the same rate. So that means we have the same money to spend on the same things, but those same things cost us more money. So again, the question is, with reduced income, and that's in quotes because your income is the same, but the income has to cover the same things at a higher rate. So, would you adjust your lifestyle? Have you adjusted your lifestyle? These next 5 months are some of the most dangerous to our finances. Halloween in October, Thanksgiving in November, Christmas, Hanukkah, and other holidays in December, New Year's in January, and Valentine's Day in February. So guess what? It behooves us to plan for financial success and minimize the possibility for financial disasters. On today's episode, we are discussing simple, practical, and realistic ways to minimize financial disasters and, more than anything, plan for financial success. Now, these tips that I'm going to be sharing, they may help us to examine our money practices and possibly help us to establish sound money habits. And no matter what your income level, these things can be impactful. And here's another thing to consider before we dive into the material. When we focus on status, it is likely to have us spending more than we should because we want to keep up with what our peers are doing. I think about athletes and performers, actors, actresses who make millions but are broke now or will be broke. I don't want that for you and me. I want us to establish good financial habits that will make our money work for us. Because as I said before, we are making the same, but it has to go a little bit further. So how can we be creative? Contrarily, when we focus on wealth, we won't be as concerned about the exterior, such as what society says. We have to really be careful about letting society dictate the how, when, where, and why of our money. We're likely to focus on long term when we think wealth. So when we think status, we're thinking spending, how can we keep up with the Joneses? How can we keep up with our peers? But when we're thinking wealth, we're more likely to be thinking long term and how we can preserve our assets. We really should examine our relationship with money. But that's a topic for another day. It requires a deep dive into our money mindset. And we won't cover that so much today. But I'll say this. Have you thought of why you spend the way you do? What are your money triggers? Think about why you spend, how you spend, and see if there's something there that's causing you to spend in a way that you really don't want to, doesn't really align with your goal, but you end up spending that way anyway. Before I continue, let me check the comments to see if we have any comments yet. Stephanie says, hello. Beverly says, hi, everyone. Thanks for being here. All right, so let's continue. One of the things I want you to think about as I go through this is, are we borrowing to protect our lifestyle? Are we borrowing because we have no choice? Or are we borrowing to live according to what we think society dictates? I think of it as living paycheck plus to paycheck plus. Not even paycheck to paycheck anymore. Paycheck plus to paycheck plus, meaning we borrow to supplement our paycheck each month. Now, there are people who genuinely need to supplement their paycheck for various reasons. So, this is not a knock on anybody. This is designed to get us thinking about how we approach our finances and the little tweaks we can make to impact our bottom line. Do we really need to live paycheck to paycheck? Do we need to spend on that credit card without a plan to pay it back, or without knowing that our paycheck will cover it or the savings will cover it? Are we spending on that credit card to get points because that money is set aside and we know we're going to use it to pay? These are things we have to ask ourselves, because habit is something that can derail us. Some of the times we do things without thinking because it's habitual. And I'm going to talk a little bit about that in a little bit. It's habitual to go grocery shopping every week, but do you need to? Okay, so I don't want to get ahead of myself. As I said before, the cost of everything is going up, but salaries are pretty much staying stagnant, or they're not moving at all, either staying stagnant, or because of the cost of living, we are using that same salary to cover more. So again, there's a need for us to be creative. Think about those college days. I don't know about you, but I was able to make $1 into 10, $10 into 50, because I had to be creative. I didn't have a source of anything. I had a little side job, but I had to be creative to make what I had work for me. But now that we have our jobs, we tell ourselves, I deserve to buy what I want. I worked hard. I'm making money. I have a job. I need to buy what I want. But we also deserve peace of mind. We also deserve a financial future. Our 80, 90-year-old self deserves a little bit of peace of mind. So, how can we preserve our assets, minimize our expenses, yet still enjoy our lives? Because this is not about deprivation. This is not about giving up everything. This is about balance, and how can we make what we have work for us? I'm saying no to a lot of things these days because I am thinking carefully about whether I am doing them out of habit and what kind of return on investments they're going to bring me. Because let's face it, I have limited resources and I need to ensure the expenditures that I am making, the spends that I'm making, is worth it. I need to make sure they're worth it. And if you're like me, you have limited resources. So you have to think carefully about how you can make your assets, make your income work harder for you. Now, many times we go to events without having a strategy or a plan for what we want to gain from that event. Are you spending money to go to events, to do things, to attend parties, to attend different things without thinking, what is my strategy? What is my plan? What can I gain from this event? Because again, habits will cause us to go to these things, to do these things without having a plan in mind. So what I want to do now is I want to share a few strategies or a few categories and a couple of things that we can do to help us make the most of our money in those categories. But before I do that, I'd like to ask a favor. I would love for you to, if you're watching me on YouTube, I have a slide that I just put up. If you are watching me on YouTube, you'll see 3 dots to the right. If you click on that, you should see a button that says thanks, and I have that highlighted. And what that does is you are able to contribute to the channel so that I can hire someone to help with editing and other technical work around this channel. So if you are so inclined, I would love for you to click that 3 dot and click thanks, and you can send me a donation so that you can help with the channel. I would really appreciate that. All right, so let's go back. Let's deep dive into some of the things that we need to think about and how we can strategize so that they don't derail our budget. Holidays. I mentioned before that these next 5 months are dangerous for us because all of the different things that are happening. So let's talk about holidays. If you are big on gift giving, there's nothing wrong with that. However, are you planning for your gift giving? Because if you don't plan, it's likely to derail your budget. At work, you're thinking, I need to give somebody at work. I need to give my coworkers. I need to give my boss a gift. I need to give my family members a gift. I need to give my neighbor a gift. And you're thinking about all of these people, but did you plan for it? So if you don't plan, it can derail your budget. So here are some things that you could possibly do to help you manage your holiday spend. You can have a family gift exchange. That way you're buying one gift for one member of your family. You can do the same on the job. Suggest a family gift, a gift exchange at work. Set dollar limits. No more than $50, no more than $100. And buy based on that. Now you're buying for one person. Another thing you can do is a gift tree. You know how you go into the bank at Christmas time and you see those trees with the tags on it to help those who are in need? You can have a family gift tree all year round. It could be for Christmas, for birthdays, for whatever holiday, for whatever celebration you have. Create a gift tree, and then you can put tags on those trees. And you select one gift. Each person is allowed to select one tag and buy based on that. You can create dollar limits around that, whatever strategy you want to create. Because again, some of us feel like we need to buy the most expensive gifts because we're making the 6 figures and the 7 figures. We need to buy the most expensive gifts. But as I shared before, there are athletes who made millions that are broke. Okay? There are actors who made millions and are broke. So it doesn't matter how much money you make, you still need to plan and strategize about ways that you can cut back on your expenses. Because again, the cost of living is going up. Okay. So unless you're getting a raise every month, a big raise every year, you may want to think about how you can minimize your expenses. How can you curtail the expenses? So again, the family gift exchange, set dollar limits, do a gift tree. Okay. Think about some creative ways you can celebrate your family. You can celebrate your coworkers. You can celebrate your neighbors and still keep it under your budget. So you want to have a line item in your budget for holidays, okay? And you want to do the same thing for birthdays. It doesn't have to be the most expensive things. We buy things sometimes and 2 years later, I won't even say 5 years, 2 years later, those people don't even remember who gave it to them. They don't even remember where the gift is because it's not. We're so used to buying things. We're so used to collecting things that we don't place the value on those things that we should, because we're used to getting things and buying things. So again, be creative and making it special. What can you special for a birthday, for example, that doesn't involve a lot of money? Do you want to spend $10,000 on a birthday party for a 1-year-old? And then when they get ready to go to maybe private school or college, you're scrambling for money to pay for that. So again, no knocking if you want to spend $10,000 on a birthday party, but how much, I would say, how much thought, or how much of a how much of a detriment is that to your child's education? Because are you doing them a disservice by spending all this money on things to impress folks who don't care about you? Meanwhile, the things that's really important, like your education, their health, all of that is not given as much priority, because guess what? Their health, nobody sees that, right? But the big car, the bigger house, the fancy party, everybody sees that and they look at that as, I have money, you are doing well, because those things are external to them. But the things that are internal, making sure our kids have the education, making sure they have the tutoring, making sure they have the drum lessons, the piano lessons, the ballet lessons, all those things that help them to be well-rounded. Those things people might not see as much. So things to consider. Again, it's your money, do what you want. But these are things that you want to consider as you think about birthdays and holidays and how you spend your money. And again, thinking of your not only living now, but living in the future, right? Here's another thing that you may want to consider: household expenses. And that includes food. I mentioned before, are you a habitual shopper where every Friday when you get off work, you go grocery shopping? You don't think about what it is you need. You don't think about if you need to go grocery shopping. It's just a habit for every Friday evening or every Saturday to go grocery shopping. And how much of that food is wasted because we don't give thought to the things that we're purchasing. We don't give thought to the fact that we have things in the back of the fridge that's spoiling. We don't give thought to the fact that we have 3 of that same thing that we just buy another one of that's sitting in the pantry. So we have to be careful, again, be strategic with the money that we have, with the assets that we have. How can we make them stretch even further, right? Another thing to consider is, are you a person who eat out a lot? Again, nothing wrong with that, but is it in your budget? If you have a group of girlfriends or a group of guy friends who always go out to eat maybe every weekend, maybe one of the things you can do is do a potluck at each person's house for one weekend per month, because that's a way to save some money, right? Because think about it, the prices of food and is increasing in the restaurants, and the service and the quality are decreasing. I don't know about you, but when I go to restaurants, it's not the same these days. The food, the price is going up. Everything needs a tip, even if you just call in an order to walk in to pick it up. They're asking for a tip. Everything is increasing. So how can we, again, be creative? One of the things you can do, if you're a husband and wife couple, you can be creative. Get some candles, get your good dishes, create an ambiance, and eat at home. Fix something really nice and eat at home. And that can make it, you're saving money, you're saving the tip, you're saving wear and tear in your car, you're saving time because you're not driving to go sit at the restaurant waiting 30 minutes to be seated, but you're still having fun. You're still enjoying that meal. Even if maybe you want to buy half of that meal, maybe part of it from the restaurant and fix the rest or something, but just some ways to be creative and save some money. You don't want to, again, deprive yourself, but at the same time, it's about balance. Do you pack lunch? Do you eat out for every day? Let's say you spent $10. Well, I'm being conservative, very conservative here. But let's say you spend $10 every day out for lunch, and maybe another $5 for snack. That's 15. And maybe the $5 for the coffee. That's maybe $20, right? Per day. At $5, at 5 days, that's $100. 4 weeks, that's $400. Putting half of that, even just half of that, into a high yield savings account, or opening a CD with some of that can gain you some extra income, some extra money. Okay, because you eat that lunch and you buy that stuff, and it doesn't even last you for the afternoon because it's filled with butter and sugar and all the things that are not even good for us, because we know when we cook at home, we know what's in it. Okay, so just something to consider when when it comes to eating out and groceries, is consider packing lunch even one day per week. Now let's talk about gas. The price of gas, it goes up, it comes down, it goes up, comes down, but for the most part, it stays up, right? Do you plan your shopping trips? And that's another thing you can do. What I do, because I'm anal like that, I make a list of where I'm going and how I can go without doubling back so I can save money on gas. So that's something for you to consider. Again, keeping in mind that this is planning for financial success and minimizing the possibility of a financial disaster, because companies are not trying to give us raises. Okay. All right. So let's talk about personal care. A lot of us, we get our nails done, we get our makeup done. Again, nothing wrong with that. But is it a habit to do? Can you think of a way to maybe minimize that expense? My daughter is very good with makeup, so she does her own makeup. And she did her friends' makeup when they had special occasion like prom and all of that. She did her friends' makeup. So instead of them going to a place somewhere to get them to pay to do their makeup, she took care of that. Can you maybe forego your nails once per week, once per month? Can you go to a beauty school and get your nails done, or you get your hair washed, or different things like that? I have done that for years, saved a lot of money. Again, if we are not newscaster, actor who really need to get our makeup and all of that professionally done, is this a need or a want? It may make you feel better, but how does it make your pocketbook feel? Just something to consider. Okay. Now let's talk about our living situation. Are you living by yourself in a 4, 5, 6 bedroom house? Now, if you can afford it and you have room to save, kudos, right? But for many of us, because of the landscape right now around real estate, we are paying a lot more money than we would if we had bought our houses maybe 5 years ago, right? For those who are new to buying a house. So, what are some things that we can do there? We can consider downsizing. That's something we don't like to do because here in the United States of America, we like big houses. Okay. So, we don't like to think about downsizing, but that's something that we could do. Or you can move to an area that's not as expensive, that's not as fancy, so you can pay less. Or even get a family member, a trusted friend, and live together for a year while both of you save money. We like our spaces, we like our privacy. And so many of us won't consider that. Okay. And that's fine. But I'm giving you these ideas, something to think about, because the purpose again is how can we maximize what we have right now, because we're not getting a lot more of anything. Okay. Now let me check the comments to see what comments we have in. Okay, we don't have any comments. So let's continue. All right. So the next thing I want you to think about is vehicles. Can you trade in your vehicle for one that is less expensive to maintain? That's something to consider. Are you taking care of your vehicles? Are you maintaining them so that they are less likely to break down? We don't want to only talk about minimizing expenses here. We want to look at other areas that we can evaluate in our financial success planning. So, one of the things we want to talk about is emergency funds. Here it is, we have to stretch the little income that we have, right? So how can we stretch that income? And now you're telling me, Severin, that I need to have an emergency fund? Where am I going to find money for that? Well, we can start with $1. I love teaching people to start with $1, because not only you're saving, you are creating a muscle, and that muscle is the habitual muscle of saving. Okay. You're creating the saving habit. So start with $1, start with 5. I share all the time that when I started building my emergency fund after my divorce, I started with $25 out of every paycheck. 25. Okay. As of today, I have a multiple 5-figure emergency fund. So it is very doable. Start where you are. Don't wait until you have $100, $150, $200 to save. Start with what you have. Now, when it comes to retirement, Nobody wants to live under a bridge when they're 60, 70 years old. So how can we prepare? Again, starting small, starting with making sure at least that you can get your employer's match. If we can get our employer's match, then at least we know we're getting free money, right? So if they match us 100% on everything we save up to say 3%. And if we save 3% and they're matching us 100%, that means we're saving 6%. Okay. That's nothing to sneeze at. And it could be that you start with retirement saving with 0.5% or 1%, okay, of your income. So whatever, just starting, because you cannot beat the compounding effect of money. You just cannot. You cannot beat the compounding effect of money. I share all the time about my emergency fund. I share about my net worth. I share about my retirement funds or my investment funds. That's what I have is because of compounding. And I started late. Okay. So if you're listening to me and you're in your 20s and 30s, now is the time to start. Okay. If you're in your 50s and 60s, you can still start. Okay. All right. So the last thing I want to share is increasing income. Okay. Yes, we want to minimize expenses. We want to be creative with our expenses. But sometimes, no matter what we do, we still need more money. Okay. So I would I would ask that you consider looking at ways that you can increase your income. Ask for a raise. That's one of the quickest things. Document your accomplishments and ask for a raise. Okay. Another thing that you can do is look at side gigs. I share on this channel all the time. I drove for Uber, I drove for Lyft, I did um, you know, different things. I did different different things that I can't think of right now, in order to increase my income so that I could pay down nearly $40,000 in student loans. Okay, and that's been over since 2019, the end of no 2018, October of 2018 until now. I was able to pay down nearly 40,000 in student loans. So there are things that we can do to be creative. Is there something that you are good at doing that you could possibly make some money from? And with all the things that I'm talking about here again is how can we plan for financial success so we can avert financial disasters? We had the government shutdown that was looming a few weeks ago. And there are people who were panicking, okay, because they may not have made preparation. And there are people who, because of circumstances, they couldn't have made preparation. But there are things they can still do in the confines of where they are. Like, as I said, be creative when you go shopping. Make a list of the things that you want. Make a list, a menu first, and then make a list from the menu of what it is that you are wanting to buy for dinner for that week, for lunch for that week. What are the things that you can do in the confines of what you have to make it work for you? So I want to share a list of things that I shared with a group that I challenged to save $5 per week outside of their regular savings, outside of their regular um, practices, to save $5 per week for the next 8 weeks. Okay. So some of the things I told them to do: cancel unused subscriptions, carry a reusable water bottle instead of buying water from the snap machine, carry one type of each snack when you go to work: a salty snack, a savory snack, a sweet snack. That way you're not going to the machine and paying $1.50 for each of those snacks based on your craving, right? So if you cover all your cravings, you have one of each that you can use and save yourself money, because when you buy it in the store in bulk, you're saving money. Pack your lunch at least one day per week. Forgo buying fancy coffee at least one day per week. Buy your favorite drink in bulk and take one to work every day instead of going to the snap machine. Use coupons. Check your store's sales paper and purchase items you need that are on sale. Try a generic brand. Sell something you're not using. We love to stockpile. There are some of us that have stuff in storage. We're paying storage for those things. They've been sitting there in years, and we're still paying storage. Why don't we sell those things? Why don't we get rid of it? Take on an extra side gig. Take public transportation one day each week instead of driving your car. You'll save not only on gas, but on parking fees if you're living in that in an area that facilitates that. Unplug devices when not in use. Review your bank and credit card statement for charges you may not have authorized. How many times have I heard people say, wow, I just looked at my statement and for 6 months, they've been charging me $5 or $10. Okay. For 6 months, 6 times 5 is 30. $10, 6 times 10 is $60. That's a lot of money where you're spending that you're not getting any return on it. So evaluate your credit card statements, your bank statements, and make sure there are charges you did not authorize. Make sure there are charges on there that you still want to have on those statements. Forgo buying pre-packaged food and set aside an hour on the weekend to chop and prepare vegetables and fruits. And one that I didn't put on my list to them is if you have fruits and vegetables that you're not using right now, instead of throwing them out, you may want to prepare them and save them in the freezer so you can use them later. Because we waste a lot of money by throwing away food. So I hope this has been helpful for somebody. At least one point that's been helpful, because again, we don't think about a lot of the things we do. We just do them because it's part of our to-do list, or it's part of our thing that we do per week or whatever. And we don't really think about how we can change our habits or how we can change the things we're doing so that we can save some money. And so I will hope that it's been helpful to you. One of the things I want to offer right now is, if you are wanting to work with someone to find some practical ways to look at your budget, because these are general things for everybody. But if you want to be specific about your finances and things that you want to look at on your finances, I invite you to book a free 15-minute consultation with me. And we can talk a little bit about some of the things that you may want to, the goals that you're wanting to achieve, and how I could possibly help you with that. So with that, thanks everyone for being here. I really, really do appreciate you. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and share with someone. And if you think of somebody who you'd like to see on this channel, who you'd like me to have a conversation with, let me know about that too, because I want to make sure that you get all the different point of views, you get all the different tips and tricks and strategies, not just from me, because my view is limited by my experience, but somebody else sharing, I can get their experience, I can get their views, and you can get a broader outlook on how to look at your finances. So again, thank you so much, and I will see you soon.